Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Happy Hump Day. It's the middle of the week or halfway through. I promised you something a little different this week. Going to bring on a co-host today. I'm going to bring on my man Carmine at Carmine's Cards, half of Crosstown Cardboard Podcast. Just bringing him on today. We're going to do just talk it up a little. Carmine, how you doing?
Well, Big Ken, this is a big honor to be on the Sports Card Lessons podcast. We've grown close over the couple of years, through the Wolfpack, or the artist formerly known as the Wolfpack Group. Then, roommates at the National, going to Culture Collision in Atlanta. So it's great to finally be on the podcast.
Yeah. When I was putting in my, I went into my calendar and I started putting your name in, to put it in for this date, and it popped up. It said Carmine Wolfpack Podcast. I'm like, oh,
Right.
little ghost from the past, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you are in South Carolina now. You're still doing sports.
Yep, that's right.
What just give us a little recap of what you've been up to and what you're doing now.
Well, I actually got this past Saturday off because both Clemson and South Carolina football had a bye week. So I got to go to a sports card show, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, I'm down here working at a local news station as a sports reporter, telling a bunch of different sports stories that have human interest elements or lessons to them, sports lessons, but not sports card lessons. Actually, I did do a sports trade night story on a local card shop, which was fun, between a father and son bonding over cards. But yes, that's basically what I'm doing.
Nice. And you came from Portland, right? You were in Portland before you
I
went
was
to
in Medford, Oregon. Yeah, so
Medford.
I was in Southern Oregon as an evening news guy, and Friday sports, like the Friday football, Friday basketball shows for high school. And before that, I was full-time sports in Casper, Wyoming. That was my first on-camera sports job. And then before that, I was behind the scenes for a couple years at ESPN, cutting highlights of people like the two on my shirt, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, but it was before their time. But the WNBA, since then, it's been amazing to see, that rise that you like to talk about here, also with the women's college hoops and WNBA.
Yeah. We'll get into that just a little later. So let me just start off by saying, you just listed all these different places you lived. You've been in the hobby, right? You've been doing things with cards. Any different from going place to place to place? Like when you've traveled and you lived in Oregon and moving to South Carolina, things like that. Does the hobby feel the same? Do the shows feel the same? Do they feel different?
Well, I think when I was in Medford, it was interesting because I kind of lived in these places that have a varying level of card exposure, or local card shops or shows around. So in Medford, the show that was going on every month for about 6 or so months was in this tiny little, it was like an apartment complex clubhouse that we went to, and it was probably 20 tables. I mean, it was more like a social club than a actual real card show, but that was good because it was, for anybody who came in, they basically had to visit your table because there's only so many you can go to. And I remember one time there was a big storm, lots of rain, and there was nobody coming in because they're like, I'm not going to come, to the card show in the rain. So I had a chance to actually really sit down with one of the vendors, and everybody was kind of looking around because there was nothing else going on. So all the vendors kind of were peeking over, looking. So I ended up spending $1,000. And you mentioned Portland, for Portland Trailblazers star Damian Lillard cards, and got a really good deal because this guy was saying, "Hey, listen, I'll cut you a good deal. I need money. I just had a baby," which the baby was there, so he wasn't lying. So, so it was a good deal for both of us, and everybody who was at the card show was like erupting in applause because there was nothing else going on. They were all paying attention, and for
Yeah.
me to put $1,000 on the table was not something you would see at that particular card show very often.
Yeah.
So that was
At a
cool.
clubhouse of an apartment building.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like, I mean, you just have to adapt to whatever situation you're able to have with cards or, with life too, as your listeners know.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to go to Burbank one time because I was on the West Coast. So that was, a couple years ago, earlier on in Burbank's, ascension to being one of the best card shows in the country. And so that was really cool to experience that for about 5 days, set up as a dealer there too.
Mhm.
Now I can't, I would be flying across the country. I could do it,
Yeah.
but so it's been a little bit different. And then here, and the team affiliations is a big thing too. So like out there, they care about the West Coast teams more, of course. And then here in South Carolina, I just went to a 400 table show at the Star Center in Spartanburg. It's hosted by Mealy Pops, and that was a little bit slower for than what I expected, um, because it was marketed as the biggest sports card show in the South, which it probably was as far as tables.
Mm.
And it was two different rooms in a big AAU gym. And I think if I was in the first room in the preferred area that wasn't, blocked off by the fake the divider that they put out there on the basketball gyms.
Yeah.
I think if I was in the first room and maybe paid a little bit more, it would have been better. But as you know, if you're in the second room because you set up all the time, the foot traffic isn't the same. So I
Yeah.
did make some money. I made probably a few $100s on top of the table fee that I paid. So it was still good. It was still fun. It just
Mhm.
wasn't as much foot traffic as I thought.
Yeah.
And so there's been shows in both places, the last place I lived and here, also in malls. I don't know how you feel about shows in malls, but sometimes those can be fun. So I used to go to a Portland show. That it was called the Twin Oaks shows in Portland, Oregon, and that one was good. Lots of Trailblazers fans and 49ers, Seahawks, Oakland Raiders up there. And then there's a show that's every 2 or 3 months here in the Haywood Mall in Greenville, South Carolina. So probably set up at that one too. But it is interesting to see the different. That's one of the things I like about my job too, is moving around, seeing the different culture, people,
Yeah.
values, teams,
Mm.
and so yeah. But it definitely has changed.
The other shows besides the 400 table show, how many tables would you say are at the other shows that you go to? Are they more of a smaller local show or?
Yeah, the only other one I've been to besides the 400 table one at the Star Center in Spartanburg, um, is probably about 70 tables at the mall, maybe 50 to
Yeah.
70,
See,
and it's
that's a
right in the
good.
middle of the main area of the mall, which I like more than a show in a mall that's just lining one area. Like that's just 2 rows, and it's, like, lining the stores on each side. I like it better if it's in the middle, like, courtyard area of the mall where it's, kind of in a square where people can walk through, and it kinda keeps them,
Yeah.
to that area. It makes it feel like more of an intentional space that was made.
Yeah, I think, American Dream, when I go down to that show, that it's kind of what you're describing. They're all in one area, the rows of tables in one area. And
Mhm.
I think too, like you just mentioned, that 70, 60, 70, maybe even 100 table show, as long as you have the traffic to come in, that's probably good. I get a lot of people, like I comment a lot on a lot of shows, throughout the episodes. And I have a lot of people starting to comment saying it's too many tables. There's too many dealers at the shows, that
Yeah.
and they may be dealers too. They may be just, more competition, and it really it cuts your margins down too, being at a show. If you've got, you know, the same similar cards as everybody else in the room, and you're trying to get the deal, and it's one thing to fight with 50, 60, or 75 tables, but now if you're fighting with 400 tables, it's probably, a little bit harder, and you're probably, if you are getting a sale at that point, you're probably losing some money on the card just to try to make money on the day.
Yeah, you definitely could be, especially if you're in the second room and the people have already spent their money. If they're in the first room, it could be, or they could save it. But
Yeah,
that's why I like to have stuff that's more unique.
yeah.
Like the biggest card sale I had over the weekend at the Mealy Pop show was the Paige Beckers that I texted you about. The Bowman U Best PSA 10 Paige Beckers
Yeah.
autograph.
So
The
we both
Yukon
almost
Star.
bought that card. I mean, both
I
of us,
know.
we
I
were
know.
going, and it was
Yeah.
Slabstock.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah,
Aaron and
yeah,
Andrew St. Croix cards also
yeah,
over at
yeah.
Slabstock. So if you're watching on the YouTube, here's a picture of it.
Mm.
But yeah, I bought it for 425. The Bowman U Best Paige Becker's PSA 10 auto numbered out of 50 and sold it for 575 at the Mealy Pop show. So that was a nice
Mm.
$150 profit. But you were telling me, Ken, that you thought it might be too early to sell that.
You know what? It's funny. I was just saying to somebody else the other day, this past weekend, I was saying, they said, "What are you doing with all these Paige Beckers that you're getting?" I said, "Oh, I'm holding them, right? I mean, February, March, this is when I want to sell them." But I'm seeing that, and the same with Juju Watkins, right?
Mhm.
But I'm seeing the prices are going so high right now. I'm almost thinking, maybe you're onto something. Maybe now, maybe this is where people are trying to jump on, trying to find lightning in a bottle again, like the Caitlin Clark cards last year, right? And the Angel Reese and
Yeah.
the Cameron Brinks. Um, because I still have a couple like the Cameron Brink, the same card you have there, number to 50, the 1010. And I've watched that price just drop, 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 drop. And I know she got hurt too. But now that the professional stuff is out, does people really want
Right.
the college stuff now? So yeah, I just think, it's October, right? I mean, they haven't even started the season yet, so I don't
Right.
know. It's all new. This sector, this lane right now with this college stuff, and I mean, we're figuring out as we go, right? But this is all new right now, and nobody knows. Is now the next year, right? Next year we'll be saying either I'm glad I didn't sell it in October, or damn, I should have sold that shit in
Yeah.
October.
Do you think, Ken, because you like to talk about, the timing of when you're buying and when you're selling, you do a really good job on the podcast here of doing that. Do you think it's similar to how you time the football market where it seems like there's two main times to sell. And of course, you could buy and sell throughout the season. And if you do it quickly, there's much less variance. But it seems like the two times to sell in a sports season are the month leading up to the season starting, and then the playoff or right before the playoffs or during the playoffs if you want to be risky. So like do you think that might be the same for college where now's the time to sell or right before or during March Madness?
So, yes, yes, you're absolutely right. But the way I look at it is, it doesn't take a betting man to know that the Yukon Huskies are going to the NCAA, champion, the March Madness, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And a handful because with the women's basketball, there's just a handful of teams that, regardless of what happens to those teams, they get to that point, right?
Mhm.
It's the player, right? It's the player now. That's more than I think with the women's college basketball. It's the player that it's if they get there, are they playing at a level where now they're saying, "Oh, she's going to go number 1 in the draft, or she'll go top 5 or top
Yeah.
3." Like where is the value going to be? And we're speculating now, right, on Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins, but there may be a player out there that we don't even know yet that's going to come out of nowhere and just be phenomenal. So this one here it's not like the football, right? So the football for the last 2 years that I did this with the last 2 years, it was like
Mhm.
clockwork for me. I was like, oh, just sitting back. Like I know what I'm doing. I'm buying this stuff from December to March, and then I'm going to sell it from June to August, and I'm going to make margins on it and all that. And that worked for a couple of years. But then this past year, it seems like the margins were so slim, and the price jump never went up, and some of them they came back down. So it makes me think about next year. It's like, do I make that big investment now, or do I just cherry pick, maybe really think about who I think is going to be, like looking at like a Jaden Daniels, how well he's doing this year. Is he the
Mhm.
guy? Should I just go get a bunch of his stuff, and then wait, because we know what happens after the first year in football. Going into the second year, somebody's all the rage, right? Somebody's what
Right.
everybody
Th
wants. Going into the
Yeah.
national, we've been at the national the last few years together. There's that one player that everybody is chasing.
Yeah, like CJ Stroud in their 2nd year.
Yeah, yeah. And all the others, like all the other the Burrows and all these other quarterbacks that I said, oh, this is what a great deal on this. I got a great deal on Tua. I got a great deal on Herbert. I got a great deal. And I bought all these cards. And then all of a sudden it came time to start selling them. And I realized that the price has never really moved on a lot of these guys. So the two previous years, there were enough buyers. Like there
Mhm.
was enough people going out and buying those cards. But I think, and I've talked about this a lot, I think what's happening now is, everybody's a dealer, everybody's a flipper, everybody's in
Mhm.
it to make money.
Yeah.
And it's not as easy to get that sale. If there's a previous comp on a card, you're going below that. That's Nobody wants to buy that card at the comp. They want to buy that below comps. And we've all said that before. If we all do that, the card's going to zero, right?
Yeah.
There's
I was
there's
talking
no
to a guy at the show kind of about that, but one of the things that I like when the show slows down is you really get to have like more sports conversations. Like if somebody's wearing a t-shirt or a hat, or they point out a card, or you ask them what their favorite team or player is or era. And at the slower shows, clearly I like to talk about sports as a sports, reporter. So some of these sports conversations were interesting, and we were talking about me and this one guy, and it goes back to your point of everybody trying to make money. But if you have cards that are collector pieces for people, that's like one of my strategies that I've been trying to get into is this card that I'm buying to try to sell, can it be a collector piece to somebody? Because then it'll be more unique. They'll be less worried about the comp, and it'll be something they're willing to invest in because they're going to keep it in their collection. Of course, you can't do that with every card, but I've been trying to aim toward the qualities of a card that would make it a PC card rather than, a silver prism rookie of a player. So that's what me and this one guy were talking about, the qualities of a card that would make it a collector piece rather than more likely to be flipped, and then you have to sell it probably for cheaper.
Yeah. And similarly, the numbered stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
think is, and I've talked about this too. I think
Yep.
it
I heard that.
forward, I think this is where, and I know they come up with a lot of sets with a lot of different numbered sets, but even still, I think the lower numbered stuff, like numbered to 49 or 79 or 99 or 199 or 125, stuff like that, where there's a million of these cards out there, but hey, this set right here was only numbered to this or that. So there's a
Mhm.
limit to these. It's not like for instance, like a CJ Stroud, Prism Silver. I mean, there's no number on it, but then you start looking at the pop counts and they're insane. So the prices went up to like 15 or 12 or $1,300, and now they keep dropping down, 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 down because the market is being flooded with these same cards. But now, if you took that same card numbered to 99 or 149, right?
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
market can't be flooded with it because there's only 99 or 149 of them. So that value, it's got to hold more value.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. The two cards that this guy was talking about that kind of fit that bill, and I think the serial numbering is definitely a big factor that you've mentioned on your show. One of them was this George Gervin autograph. It's not on any special card. The card's from 1979, but it says Iceman and then Hall of Fame 96. So it has two different inscriptions on there, which could make it from just the George Gervin autograph that there's thousands of out there. But, now that it has the Iceman and the Hall of Fame, you
Was
might
that a
as a
was that a pack pulled or was that an in person?
no, this is just an in person where he put the
Yeah.
2 inscriptions on there.
Yeah.
So that might elevate it with the inscription, because I know I personally collect inscriptions. As you know, I even picked up a few at the National, including this "Let's get ready to rumble" Michael Buffer, one of the best phrases of all time.
Yeah.
So that inscription, so that makes it a PC card for me. And the other one that the guy pointed out was this Kevin Durant uh, game used. It's Sport Kings, but it's a game used full letter, the letter S,
Yeah.
from his days with the Seattle Supersonics, his one season. And we were talking about even further. It's a 1 of 1, and it's from the National, and it's also has to be rookie year game used because he only played 1 year with the Supersonics before they went to be the Thunder, and it's a BGS 9.5. So we were talking about some of the qualities that would create a buffer, not to reference my other card that I picked up, but would create a buffer to that price dropping because they're more rare, scarce, and collector pieces. So that
Mm.
was just an interesting conversation that I took away from the show on Saturday.
Mm. And this person you were talking to, somebody who's been a dealer for a while.
No, he was just walking around. He
Oh,
was
he wasn't even a dealer. He was just,
yeah, so we were talking about all these potential collection pieces, and unfortunately he didn't make one of them into his collection, but it was a valuable conversation. It was fun.
yeah. Did you find that people were interested in your cards at this show, making offers, or I mean, do you price all your cards, right? You have prices on
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
so they come
Yeah.
up, they can see the prices. Were they anybody making offers or you know,
I had
besides what you sold,
No,
obvious.
I thought there would be more. I thought there would be more offers. I had 2 cases. I had 1 case with cards between probably 250, maybe 200 to like 3,000 or so, which I only have a couple that are above 1,000, a few that are, $1,000 or more on the price tag. But that was my value in that 1 case. And then the other one was probably between $40 and $150. So I had
Mhm.
it's not high end, but a more expensive case from what I have, and then a less expensive case. And there weren't really that many offers in those cases. I mean, there was some interest, but it wasn't, probably count on 2 hands the number of people who either made a deal or were actually close to making a deal from that case. But, I put out the value 4-row box that helped out a little bit, with the 5 to 15 or $20 cards. So people were much more interested in that than they were
Yep.
in the
Yep. And
stuff
that's
in the
what we're
case.
and that's what we're seeing at shows now. People are they're not looking to buy those bigger cards out of the case. They're digging through those boxes. They're trying to find, value, because here's the thing, honestly, if you come up and you've got a card for $300 in your case, right?
Mhm.
And that's what is listed. Most people know, maybe I could get that at 250, right? If it's 300, maybe I could get it at 250, probably could get
Right.
it at 275 or 280, like that, in that price range there. But then they look at that box and they're like, every card in here is $5 to $10, right? So I could go in this box and even know, because I know I've done this too. Like, dealers get a little lazy too. Like, it's either on one end or another. When you get into a box, you have like everything's $5 or $10 in this box. But how often are you going through that box and repricing every single card, right? So you don't know, and this is what people are looking for. They're going in there and they're like, all right, this guy just hit 3 home runs last week, or this guy just did this, and they're going
Yeah.
through and they know who they're looking for in those boxes, and then they may find some other value in there, and they may go through the box and not find anything, but this is how they're spending their day, going through those boxes. And I've noticed that too. The last few shows I got away from those discount boxes. I used to call it my soup box, right? I used to put all those cards in there. And in fact, today I'm going to run over and pick up some, boxes that I can start making discount boxes again, because I think that's more what people want right now. I don't think people want bigger cards out of cases. I think they want singles. They want to maybe try grade things, or just, you know, buy it and then immediately put it right up on eBay for buy it for 5 and put it for 20 type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how. So you're going to change your strategy to get more of the discount box
Yeah.
items out there.
Yeah, like I'm a man of the people, you know. If that's what you want, and that you want the singles. I've got 9 5-row boxes of single cards, right? That I can go from
Wow.
there and make nice discount boxes, and I put the work in already. They're all penny sleeved and top loaded. So,
So how will you price those? Let's say if it's going for $10 on eBay, what do you put the price at in your value box?
well, I mean, if it's going for $10 on eBay, I'll put it in the $10 box, right? Because It I mean, if people pull out 2 cards, they're gonna be like, you know, "Can I get a deal?" Any more, even on 1 card, they'd be like, "Oh, can I get this for 5?" Or they'll go through and I just price them at what I know they're selling for, and then it's easier for me to calculate. So if you come up and you buy 5 cards or 10 cards, right? I can quickly do the math because I know what they're selling for. And
Mhm.
then I could be at that 80% or 70% or 70, because it's easier for me just to do that math very quickly, depending on how many cards you pull out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting strategy. But the you've been talking about the Caitlin Clark cards going crazy that you basically you're almost priced out of the Caitlin Clark market, or priced out of the risk level you want to take also with Caitlin. It's been interesting to see that how I mean, my biggest sale at this show was a Paige Becker's autograph. These Caitlin Clark cards are going crazy. You're doing great with the women's basketball. How quickly that changed in 1 year. I
Yep.
mean, imagine this time last year, Caitlin was already a sensation. Yeah, bringing the Iowa team to the championship, but it wasn't like this past year. I mean, she set the stage for everything to be on the map, and then exploded it even further. Just in 1 year, the crazy difference that it's been in the women's basketball market.
Yeah, and she's paved the road, right? And she's made that lane. She's put that extra lane in that highway where a lot of people who weren't in the hobby are now getting into the hobby and saying, "This is what's bringing me in. This is why I'm coming in. This is who I want to collect." And it's
Hmm.
amazing that I see, coming to the shows. I see, dads coming with their sons all the time, and the daughters are now there too, and they're looking. And it's not only the daughters that are buying the Caitlin Clark or the Cameron Brinks, it's the sons too, right?
Yeah.
It's like the whole it, it it's something I like to see, because you're starting them at a young age, and it's a whole industry that's going to build up, and it's gonna, not only keep people in the hobby and bring them in at a young age, but it's gonna make fans of the game, right?
Hmm.
So if I get a young boy who shows up and he's saying, "Oh, I want an Angel Reese card, or I want a Caitlin Clark," I mean, he knows probably more than not, those games are being played on their TV at home, right? So they know who the player is, and that's super important. I remember having, Craig, your other from Crosstown, the other half of Crosstown, and I remember him
Yep.
talking about soccer and saying that it's Sunday mornings, once they start playing these games on Friday nights and Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, and people start watching the games and they start to get to know the players, that's gonna get them to want to buy the cards, right?
Yep.
In something that maybe a sport that's not as, popular here as football or baseball or basketball, right? So I think that's the same with this WNBA stuff. Even the women's soccer, they're playing the games. I'm starting to see the games on prime time playing these games too, since they've won the gold medal at the Olympics, right? It's really pushing that sport.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's a lane that's been working out. And also, speaking about the collectability of some items that I've been trying to get, because I think there's better opportunity, and you have to wait longer to sell them usually because you have to find that right person.
Yeah.
But I think the margins are better and the risk of it dropping is lower. I want to get your thought on uh, this item that I picked up at the sports card show over the weekend, the Mealy Pop show. This Dr. Seuss autographed photo, PSA authenticated. But I posted this on my Instagram, Carmine's Cards, and I put it on my story and I said, there once was a guy at a show, dot, dot, dot. I thought it would be kind of like, Dr. Seuss start
Yeah.
to a book, maybe. And but I did not expect to find a Dr. Seuss autograph at this show, and a cool photo of the man himself there.
What is the card? Like, what is it? What is the PSA label? What does it describe it as?
It says photograph on it.
Oh, okay.
So
So it's just a
if you
photograph.
look, so like here's a regular size card,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Okay.
then here's the photo. I think it's a 3x5,
Yeah.
but it's just and I got some of the most responses I've gotten for a card pickup, other than like a big PC Larry Bird pickup that I got, because a lot of people know that I collect him and they're excited for me. This one of the Dr. Seuss autograph got a lot of responses, because how many people read Dr. Seuss or had their parents read them Dr. Seuss growing up? So, or were the parents reading to their kids Dr. Seuss?
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of cool. And I paid $250 for it. There was a recent sale on eBay for $230, but that one was raw, not authenticated. So I thought the authentic in a PSA holder would at least, you know,
Yeah.
who knows what that margin could be. So
Yep.
I like to play in those margins also. If I'm like, okay, well, how do you value, one person could say, like I offered the guy, I said, well, I'll match the raw sale that it just sold for. And he's like, well, I think I got to get a little more than that. Would you do 250? And I was like, okay, yeah, we could do that. But I might say now, if I say 425 and sell it for 400, that's $150 profit, because that margin is unknown, like how much that really adds to the
Yeah.
card. Or if there's a bunch of raw, I'm sure you've run into this a lot. If there's a bunch of raw sales or PSA 8, PSA 9 sales recently, and you have a PSA 10, you might buy that PSA 10 for twice what the PSA 9 went for, and then ask 3 times what the PSA 9 went for, and sell it for somewhere in the 2.5 margin. But I think that's another thing that
Do
helps.
you think there's a market for that card? See that card, and I'm going to tell you what that card, and I'm not going to hurt your feelings. I hope I don't
Yeah.
hurt your feelings. But you know what that card reminds me of? It reminds me of a card that I pick up. I'm like, oh, it touched my little heartstring, right? And I'm like, oh, I like this card. I think it's so cool, and I think other people will like it too. And I
Yeah.
make the deal. I buy the card, and then I'll put it in my case, and people will be like, oh yeah, that's cool, and they just keep walking. Oh look, Dr. Seuss, that's
Yeah.
cool. And then 6 and 8 months later, people come by my case and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I remember you. I remember this card, but I still have it." Right? And
And I know you hate that. You hate the card recognition in your case.
so
But yeah,
I would have to think if whoever's buying that card is saying,
yeah.
"I want to buy that card and I want to bring it home and put it in my PC." Right?
Yes.
I don't want to buy this. I'm not buying this card because there's unknown value built into it that I could go
Right.
flip it and actually make money. I don't see
Right.
that being a flippable card.
Right, right. I think you're right. I think I like to have cards or photos or items, tickets even, and I was going to tell a quick story about this ticket in a second, but I like having items that I can have in my temporary collection, knowing that it's not the most efficient way to make money. It's not the most guaranteed way to make money. But if I can have this for 6 months and then it becomes somebody's collection piece and they really like it, and they can, have some type of attachment or value in it, that would be great for me. And it's a great conversation starter. Get people to stop in your case. Hopefully, they don't see it over and over and over again in the same showcase. But you could also, Craig, who you mentioned, my podcast co host at New York City Sports Cards, has gotten me putting stuff on eBay more often. And I think this would be a great eBay item with the number of eyes that are on there. And so, there's probably people searching Dr. Seuss on eBay all the time. there's very few autographs out there. Like I looked at, eBay beforehand on the sold and the current listings of Dr. Seuss autographs. There's not too many. So if I really wanted to sell it, that would be where I put it, which I might do.
Yeah. 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 Um, your strategies in the hobby. I mean, I know you're in Facebook groups. You just talked
Mhm.
about Craig getting you on eBay. You just set up at a local show. Um, how often are you doing each? And are you putting a lot of stuff on eBay? Are you active in the Facebook groups? Are you trying to make it to shows? What is your lane in the hobby now down there in South Carolina?
Yeah, I would say I just moved in with my girlfriend. Had this big move that
Woo!
took not to
Alright.
pat, thanks. Not saying that to pat myself on the back, but more so to say that my time has been taken up, with the move and getting ready for the move, unpacking, and I know you
But if I
moved not too
remember,
long
she
ago.
she she has something to do with cards too, right? She likes the
Yeah,
cards. She has, like, a little PC or
yes,
something?
yes. She has a PC that I've invested in for her to try to get her to invest in me spending time doing this and spending, money on these things and making it seem rational. But yeah, she has a little PC. She has an Oklahoma University PC where she went. She's from the Dallas area, so I got her some Cowboys cards, and so she likes that kind of thing. But yeah, so my time has been taken up more with the move, but I am, decently active on Instagram, Facebook. Um, I do maybe one every 3 weeks Facebook sale, and then another 2 weeks or so, or 3 weeks on Instagram. I kind of stagger those so you're not totally overwhelmed at once.
Yeah.
But I found it's kind of, especially for what I look for, with the on card autos of Hall of Fame guys and game used patches, or, weird items like this Dr. Seuss, or, you know, liquid cards at like probably 75 or 80%. I mean, if you're going to try to buy that CJ Stroud, you're going to want to buy it, maybe 80, 85%. Or if you're investing in the future, you can, make it make sense to pay more if the timing's right, like you do in the off season. But I found it's kind of hard to find what I like that I, want to have to sell, or have, like I said, in a temporary collection until the right buyer comes along. It's pretty difficult to find those cards. So
Mhm.
it's a gift and a curse to like to buy those to either collect temporarily or sell, because you can't find that many of them. But it is fun when you do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And as far as your outlook on the hobby, um, just your thoughts on the current market, because 'cause you've been doing this a while, we've been doing this a while, and,
Mhm.
I've known you, what, over 3 years now. We've done 3 nationals together, right? Uh,
I think 2, the
2.
last 2, the
Alright,
Wolfpack one, and then this last one in
in
Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah, last year. So just your current thoughts on the market, and just adapting to where you think it's at, because we've seen the height of the market and the drop of the market, and now the leveling off of the market. What are your thoughts?
I think it's hard to buy and sell, at least in my experience, the cards that a lot of people are like. The more people that are buying and selling that card, the harder it is to make money buying and selling that card, because there's so many of those type of cards out there, the Prism rookies and all the common cards. Um, but I think if you have the rare stuff that doesn't come up that often, that can end up in somebody's collection, that's where you can, you know, have more success, or at least that's my personal strategy. Now, if
Mm,
you're really good at timing things and disciplined like you are in buying during the off season, selling right before the season or at the playoff time or the March Madness time, and you can, deal with putting the Paige Beckers away for 8 months or however long it is, and you can be disciplined, then yeah, you can make, more money with that. I'm sure, and consistent, with the rise and falls of the market. But, to me, I haven't seen a lot of people spending the four-figure dollar amounts on cards. Like the range that I've had the most success with buying and selling in these Facebook groups, Instagram, or at the card show this past weekend, for example, is probably 50 to $400, that I've probably seen that
Mm,
people can get a very cool card, even a collection item for that value, but they don't have to spend a crazy amount,
mm,
but maybe somewhere on eBay or these auction houses. I mean, I've seen crazy amounts of money, but you know, for the
yeah.
everyday sales on Instagram, Facebook, I think that 50 to 400 range and at shows. How have you seen at shows? Is the risk tolerance has come down, or the amount of money being spent is less?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of money being spent, and I noticed too a lot of people coming, um, not bringing cash.
Mm,
Another thing is, oh, do you do Zelle? Do you do Venmo? Do you do PayPal? It's like they showed up and they never expected to buy anything, and they're like, oh, either that or people just don't carry cash with them.
yeah.
I don't know. It used to be going to the card show. There was just cash everywhere, flying cash, 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 every right. And now it's I see it this year. It's been a little different. I see a lot. I'm taking a lot of electronic payments. Where I
Mhm,
used to be like, now well, we got a cash sale and we got an electronic payment sale, like that type of thing, right? And now people are just like, yeah, I just want to pay this much and I'll Venmo or PayPal it to you. That's it. That's all we're doing here.
yeah.
Um, the other thing I think too is, and I always like to say I was before my time, but who knows? I could just be, blowing my own horn over here. But uh, when I came back into the hobby and I saw what everybody had, I said, I want to be different. I want to
Mhm,
I want to do the tennis and the wrestling and the this and the that. I wanted to do what wasn't, what people didn't have in their cases and I realized quickly there was a reason people didn't have all those cards in their cases. It showed because nobody was coming to buy them, right? I figured,
right.
well, if I'm the only guy, people are going to come to me, but people weren't coming to buy those cards. So, then I jumped into the mainstream and mostly football. And then I got involved with the women's soccer, which I absolutely love. And I have my PC and I have my women's soccer group on the side. I mean, in shows, it's very hard, like, unless you go to the national, besides that, selling women's soccer is really online and Facebook groups. And then the WNBA hit last year, the Caitlin Clark and the Angel Reese and all that. And I started buying, that was by accident. I just started buying into it and I started putting cards in my case and people were coming for them. I'm like, oh, this worked out great. So then between
Mhm,
this week, I had a show next week. I buy a whole bunch. I'd rip a whole bunch more and I put them in, and people were buying them. I'm like, this is perfect. And now we're almost a year later, looking forward to the next one. But the thing that I find most interesting is that I go to these shows and I go walk around and I look before the show starts and I'm looking at everybody's case, and at least everybody has at least one Caitlin Clark card in their case now, right? I don't care if they're doing basketball, if they're doing football, if they're doing hockey. There's Caitlin Clark cards in there, so
yeah.
she's become as you know I don't want to say the GOAT already, right? But she's she has that popularity that everybody has at least one of her cards sitting in there. Not every single person, but you know what
Yeah,
I'm saying. It's just like I'm looking up and I'm like, oh, I didn't expect to see that Caitlin Clark in this case. And people I know, dealers that I know, and they're that they're doing the same and they're coming to my table now and they're seeing what I have and what cards I have. And some of them are trying to make the deals to buy off of me to go sell somewhere else. Right.
yeah,
So I'm happy. I'm happy to be in that lane and working in that lane. But the hardest part is the transition, is that transition from football in the summer, right, to now. It's like, what do you do? And I would say, i'm not I'm not buying any more football after September, but every week I come on this podcast holding up these cards like, oh, bought this and I bought, because it's like, what else do you do? Like, you have to do something to stay, to keep going and to be part of and to be active.
yeah.
um But yeah,
And Caitlin Clark, Ken, is as much of a household name as a lot of these quarterbacks now,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
You know, I mean, she's just as popular, especially in the hobby,
yeah.
as a lot of those quarterbacks. And with the cash, I had an interesting interaction I wanted to get your thought on real quick on this. I also collect tickets, which is another niche. I guess I'm realizing that I'm in a lot of niche areas. No, I already knew that. But with the tickets, I think that's a very undervalued part of the sports collectible market when compared to sports cards. Of course, there's a lot more people in sports cards. There's way more money, a lot more transactions. It's easier to transport, it's smaller, and you can get a Larry Bird autograph of any kind instantly with a card. But with a ticket, it's much more collectible to me. It takes you right to that specific event. And so I put out a few tickets at my shows just to get some eyeballs, start some conversations, and expose people to the ticket market, maybe like what you did at the beginning of the WNBA or college women's basketball hype before it was mainstream, just to say, hey, there are cards of these people out there. They're these athletes, oh my gosh, I didn't know they made those cards. So with the tickets, I actually got this guy who came up and was interested in this ticket, the 2016 NBA Finals Game 7, where the Cleveland Cavaliers completed their championship, came back from 3-1 down to the Warriors. LeBron won it. Kyrie hit the dagger, that epic championship. Maybe the most memorable NBA Finals of somebody my age, 30 years old, of my time. So this guy came up. I had a $300 price tag on it, and he thought it would be a great gift for his kids, but he has 2 kids. He needed 2 of these tickets. So mine's a PM. I'm like, well, I can't. I only have 1. I don't know what to tell you. I said, too bad it's in this PSA holder. You could rip it in half and give half to each. But it's a PSA 7. So the guy's like 65 years old, and he was saying he didn't know how to operate eBay. He's like, could you find one for me? I said, I'll look for you, but there's no PSA 7s on eBay. So he gave me $100 bill, and was like, let's stay in touch. Here's my number. I want you to find me another ticket of the 2016 NBA Finals Game 7 so I can have one to give to each of my kids. And I said, okay. And then he was texting me. He's like, well, if you find a PSA 8, I'll buy your PSA 7 and I'll have one for each. But originally he wanted the same grade because he didn't want to show favoritism to one of his kids. But I guess he decided he liked one kid more, so he's gonna give them the 8 and take my 7 and give it to the least favorite. But anyway, so he's paying me a 10% finder's fee, and I just bought this other ticket of the same ticket in a PSA 8, and it was an interesting display of trust because he's giving me $100 out of his pocket. He doesn't know I could disappear forever and never talk to him again.
Yeah.
And I'm also now putting $350 of my money to buy this ticket on eBay for him without receiving any payment yet.
Because he
And
didn't even buy the first one yet, right?
no, he didn't even buy the first one. So I could be coming on this podcast and just talking about how much of a fool I am for trusting this guy. But you can get as you mentioned, when you get a read on somebody at your table, I feel like I got a pretty good read on this guy. Plus he gave me $100. So worst
Yeah.
case scenario, I'll take that 100 and I'll resell the PSA 8 at some point, but it was that was a fun,
Yeah.
type of trustworthy interaction where each person's trusting the other, and the benefit of being at a slower show where you can actually have an extended conversation and try to help somebody out. But I think it all stems from having something in the showcase that can be a collection piece, can be a gift. And again, this is just my strategy, and it takes a while. I've had this ticket for 8 months or something like that, so I'm not like turning stuff over quickly. But
Yeah.
when I do turn it over, a lot of times it's a meaningful, restore your faith in humanity type of interaction that I think is also a big benefit of being in the hobby. That, it's not the money's also great, but I mean, when you make a sale and you create that connection of, wow, that was pretty cool, and this guy's giving a gift to his kids, and we trusted each other, that can also be very valuable too.
And one other thing I want to add to that too, and I think you maybe you are a little bit before your time. I don't know with this, maybe your timing is a little bit early, but you
Yeah.
can't get tickets anymore. When you go to these things, it's all on your
Right.
phone, it's all
Right.
electronic. When Caitlin Clark played her first WNBA professional game,
Yeah.
right? I went up to Mohegan Sun, I said, I want to buy a ticket, but I don't care where the seat is, but I want the ticket. And they said, no, we can't give you the ticket. We're just gonna give you this thing, send you this thing to put on your phone. I'm like, I don't want it on my phone. I want the ticket. And then I had to go home. I went through this. I had to go home and I had to buy it off somebody else who, you know, I don't know who the people were that got the tickets printed, right, from
Yeah.
Mohegan Sun, but I had to buy one of those tickets at, 2 or 3 times the face value of the ticket to have a ticket. So someday I'll get her to autograph it, and then I'll just like that, I'll get that. But in
Yeah.
my thought whole process, it's kind of cool. It's her first WNBA game, and I'm going to have her ticket, but you can't get tickets anymore. There is
Yep.
no ticket stubs anymore. Everything is on your phone. It's all electronic.
Yep.
So as the years go on, those are going to become even more rare, right? Because all these
Yep.
spectacular games, people are going to say, well, here's something that you just can't get anymore.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, you
Yeah.
just they're not giving out, and hold that up again. I mean, for the people on
Yeah.
Facebook, look how great this ticket looks. I mean, that is just an to have a ticket like that to go to any game. That's just unbelievable. I know when I was going to the Patriots Chiefs game when Patrick Mahomes first came into the league, right? I mean, those tickets look nice, but nowhere near as nice as that ticket looks.
Yeah, and then you have the difference between the full and the stub or the box office. So there's a variety of, the full ticket has all the artwork and
Yeah,
usually looks better, and then the stub is just like that little tiny, or not the stub, but the box office, version is just the tinier with just the text and not a lot of artwork.
yeah,
So that's true. The supply and demand part of it,
yeah,
the demand isn't there, but the supply is also low. The
yeah,
pop counts on all these tickets are extremely low. And now if you get into a modern deal, if you're going to get that Caitlin Clark thing, debut ticket, which is a great purchase, I think, for the future, you probably have to get a commemorative ticket, like when they put it on the Jumbotron, order your commemorative ticket, and you have to, actually go in, because a lot of times they don't do it at the box office,
yeah.
and definitely don't get one ahead of time, for your e-ticket to get in. So I
Mm,
think that's a big undervalued market. I think it's definitely ahead of its time right now. There's not the interest in it, but I
yep,
think for like and it has to be an A-list event. Like, it can't be somebody's, oh, I got a ticket to a game that Aaron Judge had a home run in his 60 home run season. I mean, if it's not the game where he broke the Yankee record, I don't think it's worth investing in, because the market doesn't have a lot of demand in it in general. So the A-list stuff is going to be the first to get interest, and then, maybe trickle down to the less desirable stuff. But I think it's a cool thing to invest in. But again, if you're trying to flip that, it's going to be a slow seller. It's
yeah,
just a cool collection piece or temporary collection until maybe that market bubbles
yeah,
up. But,
yeah.
my favorite right now that's actually in my collection is a Tiger Woods 1997 Masters badge from his first Masters, and it's in a PSA 9, which is very low pop. I think I don't know. It's definitely below 50. I think it's maybe 20 in the pop, and I think there's like 5 10s. So that to me is a cool investable. That's like his debut, at the
Mm.
Masters, or
How
his
how
first
many
win. Sorry,
how
his
many
first Masters win, 97.
how many tickets is in your collection? That is your PC. It's like, these are mine and they're not going anywhere.
I probably have like 10 tickets that And maybe that would change if I see the value jump up. If
Mm.
I see the interest and the
Oh, you
values
can't
in
you
these
can't
cards.
base you can't base a PC on money, on the
Well, but
value.
Ken, everything has a price. I
Yeah,
mean, if it
but if it's now is the time to buy. If this is your PC, right? If this is
right.
really what makes you feel good and what you want to see on your walls or
Yeah, yeah.
in your trophy case, why the prices are down, you should be going nuts right now. You'll be buying up as many as you possibly
Yeah,
could.
but then it's money that's stagnant too. So that's always the tough decision for me is like if I put this money in here, which I've done with 10 or so items,
Yeah.
but maybe if the price jumps up, then I'm gonna have to make some tough decisions. Is this really that much of a PC item to me? Or because it went 3 times in price, I'll part with this one, I'll keep this one. Like I have a Larry Bird night autograph ticket that I'll grab real quick that has autographs of Bird and Magic on it that I think doesn't have a very big market, but for me, it's a PC item. I actually have two of them. So in 1993, when Larry Bird got inducted into the Celtics Hall of Fame, they retired his jersey. They had these tickets made by the famous artist Leroy Neiman. This was a 1993 event at Boston Garden. So you see here, they're both autographed by Bird and Magic. And of
Yeah.
course, Magic was there, gave the great tribute to Larry, and kind of made a full circle moment on their friendship and their competitive nature and their great rivalry. But they're both signed by Bird and Magic. One is signed by Bird in green ink, Magic in yellow ink, and the other one is blue and blue on the two autographs. So I'll have to get these authenticated, but I bought them from a guy who's a full time buyer and seller of tickets. So, and I could, see the autographs are authentic just off the eye, but he got them autographed in person. And, but I think stuff like this is collectible for me and the market will eventually catch up. But even if it doesn't, I'll have them for my collection. So, and I'm
Mhm.
investing in it, you know, with a risk, being mindful of the risk and the fact that I probably won't be able to get my money out of these very easily.
Yeah. So speaking of money and speaking of the hobby, we're getting down to the end. We're almost at an hour here. Predictions for next year. We're getting to the end of the year. We're looking, I mean, we got 2 more months left, and these are generally slower times in the hobby before things start to pick up January, February, March. Any predictions for next year?
Uh, I think that people are going to continue moving toward finding things that are unique for their collection. And I think you're going to see the steady, like we've already seen, but the steady decline of the common cards and the stuff you can get every single day on eBay. I think just in general, like 30,000 foot view of everything. But I think you'll still see the trends of, up at the beginning of the season or before the season, the prices will go up. And, when the playoff time comes, the price will go up. And then in the off season, a lot of things go down with the lack of interest. But I don't know. I hope to see the increase in interest for the collection items and the love of the hobby, coming through and
Yeah.
seeing it in what people are putting their money in. But what do you think as far as like a general thing?
My honest thoughts are that the GOATs, the Brady's, the Mahomes, the Jordans, you can put LeBron James in there. I mean, the players, the upper echelon of players, I think those cards are going to go up because I think um, people are going to chase those to be at some point they're going to be like, okay, I've been in this. I think what happens is a lot of times people get in the hobby and they're like, oh, I want to collect, I love these players, oh, I can make money, let's sell this, I'm going to buy, I'm going to sell, I'm going to buy, I'm going to sell. And I think it's going to be, the margins are going to be so tight, people are going to start to think, you know what, instead of all this buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. Maybe
Mhm.
I can sell, liquidate what I have here and go buy a couple big cards, right? Because even those big cards, when these cards are down, those big cards are down, right? And I talked about, chasing goats. The last couple episodes, I talked about chasing goats and going out and buying that nice Mahomes card, and I think that's kind of, I'm going to follow suit with that. I think I just want to go out, as I sell off some of my lower end inventory, and just keep buying some of these bigger cards and saying, okay, these are just going to be in my PC, right? I can go to shows with my discount boxes and do
Mhm.
those and not have a big investment, and of course buy some cards when I think of the player and the price is right, so I can continue on being a dealer in the hobby. But I think I'm going to start making some investments into some bigger cards, and
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a lot of the people in the hobby doing that. I think you're starting to see that now. I
Yeah.
think, even at shows, I see people coming around and they're just looking for Brady, Mahomes, numbered, this, that, autos, on card, you just get an idea of what people are starting to look for, and low pop, because
Mhm.
now the population counts on anything new from 2020, 2021 and up. I mean, it's just been massive. And every year it 5X's and 10X's the amount of the production that they're producing of all these cards, and this year's no different. I mean, I can't even imagine, what Panini, they're doing in the back, printing the Caitlin Clark cards, right? The WNBA. I mean, they probably are working around the clock printing as many of these cards as they can, right?
Yeah.
To sell, because if people are buying them, let's make them and sell them.
Yeah. I followed your same strategy, Ken, at the National by picking up this Larry Bird, Magic Johnson dual autograph BGS 9.5 with the 10 auto, the 0506 Ultimate Collection, numbered out of 25, Bird and Magic.
Mm,
And it was valued at about 3,000 in the deal that I made. But that's a PC card for me. But I think that's what I've also seen as the prices coming down in general, and then jumping on some of those PC cards that you don't see come up like you did with
yep.
your Mahomes. I have one final question for you. What do you think needs to change, or is it just an economic in general situation? What do you think needs to change to get people more interested in buying the $100 or $1,000 cards versus searching through the value bins? Or what do you think will initiate, coming back toward people being more interested in buying more expensive cards?
If you talk to dealers that have been doing this for years and years, they'll tell you where we're heading in this hobby is where the hobby had been for many years before the big explosion in COVID. That, people weren't coming in spending, you know, all this money on cards, and people weren't coming in and, buying your card to sell it to somebody else. They were coming in to buy your card because they wanted to own that card. They were coming in to
Mhm.
buy the card to keep it, to put it in their collection, type of thing. And I just think there's too many people trying to make money right now in the hobby, and I think you're going to start losing people. And not losing hobbyists, not people who are here for the, but the people who are just, and I say that, and I know I can see the comments now. They're like, "Come on, Big Ken, you're here to make money too." But I'm in the hobby, right? I'm in the hobby. I've got my PC. I'm doing, doing this podcast. I'm doing so many other things in the hobby that it's not that I'm showing up at a show to buy cards at 70% so I can put them on eBay that night, go home and put them on eBay before I go out for dinner, like that type of thing.
Right.
But I don't know if I'm any different than them from what I'm doing, right? I don't know, but I just know that I have more longevity than I think most people do in the hobby right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if that trend keeps going toward the cheap end and the collectible end, or, you know, where the
Yeah.
money goes.
Yeah, yeah, it every year we say the same thing. It's gonna be interesting to see what next year, and it's always something we never expected, right? It's most of what we do expect, but some of the things we don't expect. And when to move these Paige Beckers and the
Right.
Juju Watt, that's the $100,000 question right now, because I mean I've been still picking them up. I mean, you see me weekly, finding deals and steals, but it's getting hard. It's not those big, nicer autograph PSA 10 cards anymore. Now these are like base cards and PSA 9s, and those bigger cards are almost out of reach now. The prices are so
Mhm.
high on them. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. Well, I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. I know you guys are taking a little bit of a pause
Mhm.
on Crosstown, so maybe we'll get you back on here next month one more time before the end of the year if you guys don't get started up again over there.
Yeah, I hope so. There's a bunch of episodes that you could still watch or listen to on Crosstown Cardboard on YouTube or any podcast platform. And because I know since I'm a faithful listener, Ken, I know you're going to ask me to say where you can find me at Carmine's Cards on Instagram if you wanted to. So I'll since I'm a co-host, I took a little liberty. But
Yeah,
no, but
and I
thanks for
also
having me
want
on,
I also
Ken.
want to shout out your boy that's not here.
Oh yeah, Craig at New York City Sports Cards, the math teacher, the soccer coach on Long Island. He's also got some great stuff. Big Knicks fan, just like me. So yeah, definitely find us, hit us up, check out our collections, and see what we can share in the hobby.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we'll get together and do a year end. I'll get Craig on here too. We'll do a
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah, yeah. We won't call it a wolf pack.
Oh yeah, the artist formerly known as the Wolf Pack.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Hey, tell everybody where they can
Oh
find you.
oh oh! I already
They
did
might
it.
they might want a ticket. They might want to buy your ticket.
Hey, yeah, that's right. So it's Carmine's Cards on Instagram, Crosstown Cardboard, YouTube, and podcasts, and we should be back soon. We're hitting a busy time in our life with college football season and Craig restarting the school year as a teacher. So hopefully that pause resumes soon. But this was a lot of fun, Ken. Thanks for having me on and letting me pick your brain also.
Yeah, yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks, Carmine. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.